Alright guys, so there's no quiz associated with this video, but by popular demand, going to do a little video on dealing with negatives. Hopefully this will answer all your questions from class. So first example, 1.97 minus 5.38. It's always easiest to think of these types of problems as money. So in this case, if you have $1.97 and you owe someone $5.38, the question is, how much in debt are you? And you could probably think about that for a couple of seconds and think, oh, maybe $3, a little more than $3. How to actually do this subtraction problem, though, can be kind of tricky. The way you actually have to do it is do the subtraction sort of backwards. So what we're really going to do is take whatever the biggest number is. In this case, the biggest number is 5.38, and we're going to subtract $1.97 from that. Now after we do that subtraction, in the end we're going to look at the sign and say, oh, it needs to be negative. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to subtract 1, bring down our decimal. We have $3.41. That is actually how much in debt we are. So the answer to this question is negative 3.41. Whenever you're doing a basic subtraction problem, you can always take the larger of the two numbers, put it on top, and subtract the smaller of the two numbers, and then just get your sign right at the end. But here's another example. What if we have two negatives? Negative 2.4 minus 8.9. So here we're in debt, say $2.40, and we owe another $8.90. How much in debt are we overall, is what we're asking. Now when the signs of these two numbers are the same, as it turns out, what we can do is we can just add them together. So off on the side, you can do 2.4 plus 8.9. Do a simple addition problem. 11.3. Of course, we know that since both of these terms were negative, the final answer should be negative as well. The final answer is negative 11.3. Okay, so basic rule. When the two terms have different signs, like one is positive and one is negative, what you can always do is take the biggest one and subtract the smaller one and work out your sign at the end. Work out whether it should be positive or negative. When the signs of the two terms are the same, here we have a negative and a negative, what you want to do is just add the two, stick a negative on there at the end. Here's another question. We have 3 halves divided by negative 5/4. So you know how to divide fractions. You do the whole copy.flop thing. You take the top fraction, copy it down, and then you take the reciprocal of the bottom fraction. So we'll keep the negative on the 5 there. The question is, what do we do with that negative sign? Well, there's only one negative sign appearing here in this now multiplication problem. So the whole answer is going to be negative. All you have to do is multiply across the top. That's 12. Multiply across the denominator. That's 10. One negative sign makes a multiplication problem negative. Of course, you can reduce that now. You can reduce that to 6/5, and that's negative. Another example, this is pretty much exactly the same as the previous one. We have one negative sign in this multiplication problem. All you have to do is multiply. Put the negative sign out in front. 32. You could reduce that if you could, but I don't think you can. Next example, we have two negative signs going on here. And whenever you have two negative signs that are multiplied or divided, those negatives are going to turn into a positive. So our answer is going to be positive. Another quick question you might be asking is, how do we handle this 3? Well, you can think of that 3 as a 3 over 1. So really that 3 is just in the numerator. So multiply across the numerator and get 24. The denominator is just 5. Positive because there were two negative fractions there. Last example. If it were the case that you had a multiplication problem and there happened to be 3 negatives in it, those negatives could be anywhere, but you have 3 of them, 2 of them are going to cancel out. And you're going to be left with the third negative out in front. So 2 of those negatives cancel out and the third one stays. How do we do this? Multiply across the numerator and denominator, 5/16. One more real quick note before we finish the video. Say we have a number negative 5/16. It doesn't really matter where we put the negative sign. It can be on the negative 5, it can be on the negative, it could be on the 16, or it can just be out in front of the fraction. All 3 of those are the same. It doesn't really matter where you put the negative in the fraction. I would say that this one is probably the most typical way to write it. But that's it. Okay, hopefully that answers some of your questions about negatives, and I'll see you in class.